Good afternoon and welcome back to the kitchen. Patrick Evans here. You know that because you're on my Facebook page. And we are ready to do a little Bolognese tonight. Now, a lot of people think that Bolognese is just meat sauce. Well, it's not just meat sauce. If you want to make a meat sauce, hi John Rollins, you can take your marinara, and my mom always made a marinara, and it was vegetarian. And if you want to make a meat sauce, you can just brown some ground beef and put your marinara in that. That's meat sauce. For us, meat sauce in our family was the Sunday, the sauce, the gravy, some Italians like to call it, with the meatballs, and we put Italian sausage in it, and we put pepperoni in it, and that's a real neat little trick. If you're making your next batch of spaghetti sauce, get the stick pepperoni. You got to make sure you get the stick pepperoni. And then you cut it up into about 1.5 inch slices, put it in your sauce, let it simmer all day. It's a fantastic addition. That's meat sauce. Bolognese is a whole different animal. One of my favorite dishes. I would argue that it was probably not one of my father's favorite dishes, but we had it on special occasions in our house. My uncle was the guy who usually made it, and Steve Gary. I know you're not easily impressed, but I think you're going to be impressed with this. So now this is going to take a little while. We're not going to be on for the whole time, but I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to give you all the ingredients, but this is a sauce that needs to simmer for a while. We're going to try it when we get done, but then I'm going to let it simmer for a while as well. Hello, Brianna. Hi, I'm Marty. Good to see you all. So, each week for the last several weeks since we went under quarantine, I've been bringing you some family recipes, and I was trying to think of what would be good. My wife says another haircut. I get a haircut once a week because I know the barber. He's me. I bought a great pair of clippers when we went into quarantine, and I just clip my hair. Anyway, back to the recipe. All right, what you need here is you're going to get very much like the meatballs. I don't know if you guys remember the meatball recipe, but we used 2 pounds of meat, and it was 1 pound of beef, 1/2 pound of pork, ground up pork, or ground full Vio's Italian sausage, which is always nice. Also, 1/2 pound of ground veal. So that's your 2 pounds of meat, and what you want to do is just mix that up nicely. I've taken the liberty of already doing that. Here's my ground meat that's ready to go. I've also salt and peppered it, so it's seasoned properly. But what makes Bolognese special is how you start. And you're going to start with diced carrots, onion, and celery. The carrots are really important for this, as is the onion and celery. In Louisiana cooking, that's called the Holy Trinity. So I've heated up some olive oil, and get good olive oil, the good extra virgin olive oil. I grab, when I'm at Costco, the Kirkland brand is, this is an unendorsed advertisement. But Kirkland, if you're watching, if you want to sponsor, we'd talk about it. They get great olive oil, and so I always, buy a couple of bottles when I'm over there. I get their Toscano, which is a little higher end stuff, but it's worth it, especially when you're doing something like this. So what you want to do, I've diced up, I would say about 2 or 3 carrot sticks, a big onion, and several stalks of celery. So you've got all of that diced up. So what we've done is we've heated the pan, and we're just going to add that right in. So this is the start. So let's see. That should be plenty. All right, so now remember, this sauce is going to, and by the way, Cheryl, I just saw your note, you'll pass the board. You can make Bolognese with all beef, that's absolutely fine. You can make it with beef and pork, you can make it with beef and veal, and if you want a really rich sauce, you can make it all veal. I know people who do that. I like the mix, the beef, pork, veal, but again, if you just want to make it with just beef, that's really easy to do. But I like the traditional mix of the 3 meats. Pork gives it a really nice flavor. Anthony, but today is garbage day, you're right, and I need to take out my cans. Thank you for reminding me. So I've got the onions, the celery, and the carrots ready to go. They're heating up. And I've also got my pasta water going. I'm going to use bucatini for this. I'm just using, this is an Italian, it's not an expensive brand. I like the Italian dry pastas. Hello, Richard Herwig. I owe you a phone call. And my buddy Richie Fano from Orange County, who plays over at a great Italian restaurant. All of a sudden the name is escaping me. Hello, Sue Parker. But anyway, bucatini. it's great pasta, and it's like a thick spaghetti, but it's hollow in the middle. It's a long, thin tube, and I love it with dishes like you're not going to hear summer wind. We're not. Maybe next week. I need to have more. It's 5 o'clock. I've only just started my Jack Daniels routine. Anyway, bucatini, great pasta, especially for bolognese. Now, a lot of times people like the short noodles, like the rigatoni bolognese or a penne. I'm a long noodle guy, and I love bucatini because it's a hearty pasta, and it's going to stand up to this, which is a pretty hearty sauce. You might even think of it more as kind of a winter sauce. It may not be the thing you immediately think of when it's going to be 100 degrees outside, but that's okay. I can eat bolognese year-round. So anyway, let's continue sauteing the onions, the carrot, and the celery. And you don't have to worry about getting the carrots too soft right now, because you're going to simmer this probably for a good couple, maybe 3 hours. So that's what bucatini, is that what you want to find, David? I know it's a great pasta. Any store, any pasta store will have it. You can find it. Hello, Sonny, good to see you. Tony, Papa's in the house. I'm a long noodle guy. Get out of here. And anyway, so remember, you want to get it sauteed, the onions, the carrots, and the celery, but it doesn't have to get real soft because you're going to simmer this for a nice long time. The carrots are really important because this is going to end up with it's a very rich sauce, especially when you're putting in the veal that we're putting in, makes it nice and rich, but it also has a very nice sweet characteristic. And there are a couple of ingredients that are very different than if you were making a marinara sauce or just a regular meat sauce. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I've got all of my ingredients laid out. At least I think I have everything. And we hopefully won't have to go rummaging. Hello, Cliff. How are you doing? So, of course, salt and pepper, which I've already seasoned the meat mixture with the salt and pepper. Now, with this particular preparation, I'm going to put in some garlic, but not a lot. This is a couple of cloves, and you don't want to use any more than that because this is you don't want to over garlic this sauce. Bocce restaurant, thank you, Richie Fano. When we get open back up, you guys have to go see my friend Richie Fano. He's one of the greatest piano players you're ever going to meet, and he plays at Bocce in Huntington Beach. Great Italian restaurant. I think their bolognese is pretty good. So go see Richie, and if you want to hear Summer Wind, that's the guy to play it. Anyway, a little bit of garlic, not too much garlic. Some recipes don't use any garlic at all. I kind of look through it. I do these recipes from memory, but I also want to check to make sure. Hello, Karen Vire from Charlottesville. Her dad and my dad worked together at the University of Virginia for a long time. Anyway, so once the onions and the celery are a little ways along, and I just want to soften them up a little bit, I'm going to go about 5-6 minutes max, and then I'm going to add in the garlic. When you put the garlic in, you don't want it, you're going to turn the heat down a little bit. You don't want to burn it because it gets really bitter really quickly. So we're going to put that in just a little bit. The other seasonings that I'm going to use in this, it's a little, I chopped this up. This is a little oregano and a little basil. I chopped them up and let it dry out a little bit. I'm not going to use a lot of that. The flavor is going to come from that celery, garlic, and the garlic, the onion, and the carrot, and of course that wonderful beef. And we're also going to add a little chicken stock in as we go along. You don't need a lot. I've got it over there. I've heated up a little bit, so we'll put that in. You're going to need some Parmesan cheese, nice Parmigiano Reggiano. I grated up. And once again, especially when I'm doing recipes like this, I don't like the shredded Parmesan. I like the finely grated. See, that's going to incorporate into the sauce a lot easier. You're also going to need a little cream or milk. I prefer cream. It makes it a little richer. You can do this with whole milk. You can do it if you're, bolognese is probably not the thing you're going to do if you're counting calories, but if you are, you can use low-fat or skim milk as well. But about a cup of that. So we have that ready to go. This is coming along nicely. I'm going to turn my heat down just a little bit. And we're going to add in that garlic, and it's only a couple of cloves. I'm going to point the camera over here so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And please ignore the fact that the stove is a little messy. All right, so we got that in there, just like that. Okay. You know, one of the things that I did forget I totally forgot. You're going to need some white wine to go with this. So let me run to the fridge. Hold on. Dooby-dooby-doo. Dooby-dooby. Dooby-dooby-doo. Dooby-doo. This is fine. For this, you're going to want to use a dry white wine. I like to use an Italian wine, often a Pinot Grigio or something like that. I've got some Sauvignon Blanc. That's a Joel Gott. It's fine. You're going to need about a cup, maybe a cup and a half of that. Paula Dean's, she says it needs more butter. Don't worry. When I put the cream in there, you can forget about the butter. You don't need butter, although it's good. And I have that nice Italian butter. I bought another couple of sticks today when I was at the store. All right, so now we've got the garlic in there along with our Holy Trinity, the celery, the onion, and the carrots. The other seasoning I'm going to use, I got a little fresh sage. And it's going to bring out, it's a nice meaty sauce. Sage is a really powerful flavor, so you only want to use a little bit. Tony Pomponio. That guy's always good for a shameless plug. Hello, Mr. Hansen. Thank you, sir, for watching. James Hansen watching. Author of First Man, great book. I got to meet him. He was here in Palm Springs, and we've been friends on Facebook. So anyway, we're going to let this continue to soften up just a little bit more. I like the carrots to cook down a little bit, but again, it's going to simmer for a good while after you finish up putting everything. So you don't have to worry about getting the carrots too soft right now. We're bringing this back up to temperature. You get your garlic in there. All right, I'm going to add in a little of the white wine right now. Just a splash to cook with the vegetables. You know, each week I try to think of recipes that we ate growing up. I also try to think of recipes that aren't going to keep you on Facebook Live for an hour and a half. This one may take a little longer, but this is one of those, again, I was telling you, it's kind of a special occasion recipe. And it does take a little while to make, but it is so good and so rich and so delicious. And when we get done, the consistency of this is going to be a little bit like an Italian sloppy joe. It's going to be that thick. Now, if you want it a little thinner, you can add a little more in terms of the chicken stock or even a little more tomato if you want it to thin up. But this sauce is going to end up being more of a brown sauce than a red sauce. So it's going to be more meat-based than tomato-based. So once we bring up that wine back up to temperature, and you need a good sturdy pan. I bought this pan, a few months ago. It's good for just about everything. So we're going to do that. So now I've got my sage and I've got my basil and my oregano. But again, you don't want a whole lot of that. And let's see. Tom Brewer says in tomato sauce, there are going to be tomatoes, but if you like mushrooms, you can put mushrooms in it. I'm not a mushroom guy. Tom, I feel about mushrooms the same way. This is my buddy Tom Brewer. Tom is a producer, television producer. I work with him at WDBJ-TV in Roanoke, Virginia for many years. And he is working in Roanoke, I think at a different station, right? You're working at the NBC affiliate now. Tom, one of the best senses of humor, great guy, but he hates bananas. And I feel about mushrooms sort of the same way you feel about bananas. All right, we're bringing this back up to temperature. You got a nice, what I want to do, I put in a little of that white wine. I'm going to let it cook off a little bit. Hello, Joe DeShiel. There's another guy from Roanoke, great reporter. He's been at that TV station for 30 years? How? It's a long time. Joe DeShiel, one of my dearest friends from back east. All right, so once you've got the white wine kind of cooked off a little bit, now we're ready to add in the meat. And remember, this is a beef pork veal mixture. And with the meatballs, you wanted it all nicely incorporated, same here. But remember, you're going to brown it here, so it's fine. You're going to continue to kind of incorporate all those meats together. But I mixed them up a little bit to make sure. I just don't want like one little portion of beef and one little portion of veal. So I've got it all in here together. All right. And this is about 2 pounds of meat. There we go. Hello, Casey. Nice to see you. Now, we're going to let this what you want to do is continue cooking this with the vegetables. I'll keep stirring it a little bit. And then we're going to add a little bit more of our white wine. Why white wine and not red? Well, I think in sort of the same reason we use white wine in the cacciatore. It makes it a little lighter. I'm going to put a little more heat under this. And it brings out the flavor of the carrots and the onions and the celery, and it's real nice. There's Vincent Capel watching. Hi, Vin. How you doing? David Saul's watching from the Phoenix area. He and his husband used to be here in the valley. So we're going to add a little more white wine as the meat browns up a little bit. So we're going to continue to do that. Hello, Connie. I just saw you popped in. And remember, if you like these recipes, and like every Italian recipe, you can modify it to suit your taste. Of course, you can just use the beef if you don't want to use the pork and veal. You can use any combination of the three that you like. And hello, Laura Vestri is watching from Italy. Laura was an exchange student from a little town called Prato e Poggio Acciano, where just about 10 kilometers north of Florence, and I was an exchange student. And Laura and her group, great fun to spend time with. And I saw them again. My wife and I went back to Italy for our honeymoon, but my friends in Italy arranged a reunion of all of the kids that were in that exchange group. So it was just incredible to see that. Elliot Francis says, what's in the bottle tonight? That's a good question. I'm just using a little Sauvignon Blanc because we're cooking the Bolognese with a little white wine, and that's what I had open. Now, it is important. Hello, Rita Vale. It's important to cook with wine you like to drink. I'm not a white wine guy. So, of course, I've got a little Jack Daniels going that I'm going to enjoy with this meal. And I got a little Frank and Jerry Vale playing over here. Rita Vale, wife of Jerry Vale, watching. Rita is one of the best cooks you're ever going to meet. I think we've discussed this before. Her meatball's incredible, and I think her recipe and my recipe are pretty similar. All right, the meat, we're going to brown that up. Remember, we're still cooking that with the onions and the garlic and the celery and the carrots. Hey, I want to tell you, while that's cooking, two things I want to tell you about. Number one, tomorrow night on KESQ News Channel 3 and also on CBS 2, it is a salute to our 2020 graduates, the class of 2020. You know, these kids aren't going to get to walk down the aisle, and they're not going to get to pick up their diplomas. So our team at KESQ put together a salute to the class of 2020. It's going to air tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. Jeff Stahl, my morning co-anchor, and our chief meteorologist, Haley Clausen, are the hosts. And I encourage you to watch because these kids deserve a salute and a shout out. They don't get to do the traditional things that graduates get to do, but they put in all the hard work, and we need to recognize their accomplishments. So that's one thing. And then on Sunday, hello, Jan. You came in late, but that's okay. The video will be posted online. It's carrots, onions, celery, saute that, and then you add in the beef, pork, and the veal, okay? You're caught up. I'm going to continue to watch this. On Sunday the 24th, this Sunday, Fitz from my radio station, CV1043, if you guys know, I'm on the radio every afternoon starting at 2. Ciao, daughter. Good to see you. And Fitz has put together a marvelous group of musicians. He did this over couple of years over the McCallum, but we've pulled great concert moments for you. And at 9 o'clock on Fox 11 in Palm Springs, you can watch that. We're raising money for the Coachella Valley Rescue Mission. You go to cvrm.org, and there's a link called Fitz and Friends. Click on that. Fitz and I are co-hosting that special. That's Sunday night on Fox, and it's live streaming on KESQ.com. So if you're watching this from out of the area, hello, Rick Eisenhart, one of the great real estate guys in Indian Wells, covering the whole valley. And he sings in the California Desert Chorale, and I served on that board for a while. All right, we continue to cook down our beef, pork, and veal mixture. Oh, that's looking nice and it's smelling terrific. And remember, don't put a lot of garlic in this, because there's some other things that are going to this that you may be a little surprised at. All right, that's browning up nicely. You guys aren't squeamish. You don't mind taking a look. Here, let me bring you over. Careful not to spill my drink. All right, so that's our beef, pork, veal, and you can see the celery, the carrots, the onions all melding in together nicely. So that's going to continue. And I'm trying to... There's Fitz. I missed your question. What Fitz said, milk or not? Yes, milk, but I use cream because it makes it richer, and I like the calories. Hi, Stacy. Nice to see you. Thank you very much. I'm enjoying doing these cooking videos. It's become a lot of fun, and my wife has decided, she's always like, it's always Italian. It's never Lithuanian. Well, it's because I don't know very many Lithuanian recipes, but Andrea's going to join us. I'm not sure when. Might have to do it this weekend. But she's going to make a very traditional Eastern European Lithuanian dish called Saute. It's basically beet soup or borscht. It's delicious. But we're going to do that. So she's going to join us for that. All right, we've got the meat. It's nicely browned. Now we're going to add in a little more of the white wine. We're going to put that in. I don't measure a lot, but we're going to go with, I'd say, about a cup and a half. Hello, Kim Waltrip, and it really does smell good. Hello, Sandy, and by the way, as soon as I'm done, and if you want me to bring the Bolognese over, I can do that. There are no potatoes, Richard. It's not an Irish dish, it's an Italian dish, no potatoes. Oh, with Andrea's dish, yeah, there are potatoes in that dish. There's Dale Grabeau watching, one of the great attorneys here in the desert, and also one, if you guys aren't friends with Dale on Facebook, you should be, because he's hilarious. One of the best senses of humor. All right, now we're going to cook off the wine. I got the heat up nice. And the nice thing about using this white wine, it's going to help to tenderize the meat. It's got a little higher acidity level, so it's going to break down the proteins, and it'll make that beef mixture, the beef, the pork, veal, or if you're just using beef, it's even more important because it'll make it nice and tender. What? Andrew, you know that you're going to make the Saute. I can't say it correctly. I need her here to do it. All right, once we've cooked down the wine, there are tomatoes in this dish, but not a lot. And once again, here, Tom, look, tomatoes. You're going to love this. This is this San Marzano chopped tomatoes, imported. You can get them at, I get them at Gelson's over in Rancho Mirage. I know that Bristol Farms carries them, Jensen's, but these are great tomatoes. And I use them in almost every dish, all of my Italian dishes. So we're going to put this in. And I always do this. I like to rinse out the can, make sure I get all the tomatoes. I'm going to do it with a little white wine instead of water. Okay? So we'll just slosh that around. Now I've got all my tomato out of the can. That's good to go. That's all the tomato. Okay, so what was that? That was a 14-ounce can. So all the tomatoes we're going to put in this. That's it. So now it's really bubbling, so we're going to turn the heat back a little bit on this. Oh, that is so nice. All right, now as we incorporate the tomatoes, and remember, this is going to be a really meaty, beefy sauce. It's going to be more of a brown sauce than a red sauce. But we're going to add that cream or milk. And that's going to just really light it up. Now, I've got the tomatoes in there. We're simmering that. I'm going to add in just a little bit, not a lot, just a couple of pinches of the oregano and the basil. I don't want a whole lot of that in there, just a little bit. We're not making a marinara, we're doing bolognese. And it's the flavor of the meat and those carrots and the celery and the onions. But then again, I'm going to put a little bit of this sage in there as well. And that's a really nice, it's so aromatic. It smells so good. All right, so we got all of our spices in there. Oh, that's nice. By the way, Richard, I don't know if you can tell, but Summer Wind's playing on the radio. And the summer wind. There you go. That's as much singing as you're going to get tonight. I'm going to put in my bucatini because my pasta's boiling. got that. Now, as you bring this back up, and you don't want to boil it, you just want to bring it up to a nice simmer to incorporate the wine and the tomatoes with all of that wonderful beef and the pork and the veal. And the veal really adds a richness to it. It's another layer of richness, but it's also very delicate. No, Tony, when we can all get back together, Tony, you need to play it on your accordion, and then I'll sing it with you. So we've got that going. Oh, this is looking very nice. And you want to keep stirring it up, and you know, the meat's gonna, you want to break up all those clumps so it's just nice and even and smooth. Time for bucatini pasta. Sonia, no, we'll do that another time, I promise. All right, now I've heated up just a little chicken broth. I'd say about 2 cups, maybe a little more. I'm not going to use it all, but we're going to put a couple of ladles full right in there like that. So there we go. I got to make sure my bucatini is swimming in the hot tub over here. Get that ready. I like the bucatini because it holds up well. It's just a great pasta for heavier sauces like Bolognese. It's not a shrinking violet. It's not a wilting flower. So that's why I like it. But I also love penne with Bolognese. My dad he didn't like a lot of variety of Italian noodles. He was a rigatoni guy, and if you made him anything other than rigatoni, he would eat it, but he would complain about it a lot. That's just the way Tony was. All right, so we've got the pasta going, and I'll drain that in just a little bit. Bucatini is going to take just a little bit longer to cook than your regular spaghetti because it's a thicker noodle, but remember, it's also hollow in the middle, so it's just a very interesting texture. Caroline, hi, how are you? Oh, I helped you. Okay, so Caroline was at Bernie's last night. You know, Bernie's is doing car hop service. So they're serving outside. You can get it to go. But you can also sit in the parking lot. You cannot drink your drink in the parking lot. You're not supposed to. But very shortly, restaurants throughout the valley are going to have the Sony's ravioli. I like ravioli too. The ABC is going to loosen up the rules. They're going to have to buy a special license, but restaurants will be able to serve on their property, including, since no one's going in to dine right now, you will actually be able to order a cocktail and drink it as long as you stay on the property. So that's going to make it a little easier to enjoy some of our local restaurants as they slowly try to reopen. You know, they're going to be really controlling the number of people and that sort of thing. So it's very important to follow the rules. Now, I salted and put pepper in the meat mixture, but I haven't done that with the rest of the sauce. So I want to do that, a little bit of salt and pepper. And again, I don't measure much, and I try to post these recipes, and I'll post this one as well, but especially the salt and pepper and a little bit of the oregano, it's just kind of a pinch, and you just got to get the feel for it. When I make a brand new recipe, I will measure it out entirely. Hi, Dorothy, how are you? The thicker the... that's my quote, Steve. It's a thicker noodle, but it's hollow in the middle. Hello, Daleberg. All right, so this is really looking quite nice, but it's going to thicken up appreciably as we continue to cook it. And again, we're not going to stay on the whole evening as we thicken the sauce up, but I'm going to show you where we are so far. And doesn't that look delicious? And you can see it's got those delicious chunks of carrot in there. Carrot is the way to go when you want to add a little sweetness to your sauce. And we never, ever put sugar in the sauce. That was a giant no-no in our family. Years ago, in New Jersey, where we would vacation, we went out to dinner. Hi, Patty, how are you doing? We went out to dinner, and we never ate at Italian restaurants because we made better Italian food at home. But we went against our better judgment, we were all on vacation, we go to this Italian restaurant, and I ordered the spaghetti, and I was a kid. My portion came out first, and I tried it, and it was pretty terrible. My uncle, Uncle Pat, he tried it, and he said, no, the kid's not being finicky. It really is bad. So he called the waitress over and he said, ma'am, this spaghetti is just not very good. And she looked at my uncle and she said, is there not enough sugar in the sauce? And my uncle said, there's what? And she said, we can put more sugar in the sauce. He stood up and he said, you may cancel the rest of our meal. And he pulled a wad of bills out. He laid down the table. He goes, come on, we're leaving. So we don't put sugar in the sauce. But the way to sweeten the sauce is, of course, to use nice carrots. And sometimes people do put sugar in their tomato sauce. It cuts back on the acidity. But again, there are other ways to do that. And if you use nice, fresh tomatoes, you don't have to worry about the acidity. They're still nice and sweet, really ripe tomatoes. And again, these tomatoes, these San Marzanos, are really good. You put a dash of baking soda. No, oh, that's a good tip. No sugar in the sauce. Now, there are other Italian families that would argue with mine and say, oh, putting sugar in the sauce is fine. If you watch The Godfather, you know, Fat Clemenza's making a big batch of sauce for the boys, and he puts a little sugar in there. Yes, it does. Oh, yeah, the baking soda cuts the acid without adding the sweetness of the sugar. That's a great solution. Patty, thank you very much for that. Hello, Casey. Casey, my wife's cousin, actually, and he and his husband, Tom, great guys, live over in Palm Springs. You've been doing a lot of cooking. Casey's been doing a lot of traditional Lithuanian dishes. I've been watching. I think during this time when we're all sort of stuck at home, we're using our tried and true recipes, and I ran out of those about week 3, so now I'm doing stuff that we don't do very often, just trying some new recipes as well. All right, so I'm cooking this down. We've got the tomatoes and we've got the little bit of chicken stock in there. Oh, that is really, really nice. And you can smell the sage. That sage adds just such a nice dimension to this sauce. So the Bolognese is coming along beautifully. And again, we're going to try it. I'm going to put the rest of the ingredients in just a little bit. But then you're going to want to let it simmer a while. Need Fulvio's Mild at the Real Italian Deli in PD. We've got an order, Crown Meats, which distributes Fulvio's. We've placed an order, but I think we're just about out of mild at both locations, so they've got the spicy. But come on, toughen up and eat the spicy, it's good. I've got some in my refrigerator right now that we're gonna have this weekend. So we're gonna continue to let that cook down a little bit. Once you have cooked off a lot of the liquid, you want this sauce to kind of thicken up a little bit. Normally, I would let it thicken up a little bit more, but then you back the heat off. This is where we're going to add our milk or cream, okay? So about a cup, and we're just going to put that in, and I want to show you the difference here. Hold on. Whoop. All right. This is before the cream goes in, okay? That is just the meat with the wine, the tomatoes, and the chicken stock in there, all right? And again, I'd like to let this cook off a little bit more, but since we all have something better to do than sit and watch me cook on TV, but on Facebook. All right, we're gonna step up the next step. So we're gonna add our milk or cream. And I'm going to put this in, and again, you don't want it too hot, so back that off a little bit. And normally you would add this in a little bit later in the process. I just want to show you, and I'm going to show you oh, that is so beautiful. The difference that adding the cream into this makes. All right, take a look at that now, okay? That's beginning to look like your traditional Bolognese. And so this is going to simmer a while, but we're going to try it in just a little bit. So I've added the cream in. And the other important recipe, just like the, what did we do last week, the fettuccine alfredo? You're going to put a little nutmeg in, just a dash of nutmeg to go with that cream. And it's going to bring all of those wonderful flavors together. I know it sounds a little unusual, but that's what we're going to do. So, but just a little bit, just a dash or 2, like that. Okay, now we're going to stir that in. Oh. And that's the aroma that I remember as a kid. So my aunt and uncle, who made this dish pretty regularly, lived in Whippany, New Jersey, which is right outside of Morristown. And I'll tell you, it was that hint of nutmeg. I just decided to put a little more in. It just told you you're going to have something really special. All right, so now we've added in the nutmeg and we've added in the cream. Now you're going to add in about, I'd say, a cup of Parmesan cheese, finely grated, and then of course you're going to save some and put some right on top when you serve it. I'm going to bring the heat back up because we want to incorporate this, and you want it to melt into the sauce nicely. This is still a little thinner than I would serve. I'm going to let this cook down a little bit. I've forgotten entirely about my bucatini. It's probably, no, it's holding up. It'll be okay. We'll drain that in a minute. All right, so bring your heat back up. Bring it back up, not to a boil, to a simmer. And then you're going to add in this delicious Parmigiano Reggiano, one of the greatest cheeses of all time. Now, if you want it a little sharper, we talked about this last time, I think, you can do Pecorino cheese, which is great, but Parmigiano Reggiano is really just the king of cheeses. So we're going to blend that in. All right. Now, oh, we really got something going here. Yes, absolutely. Let that just melt in. I'm going to let that simmer a little while longer, but we're going to try it because the bucatini is just about done. So I'm going to drain the pasta, and then we're going to plate it up. Hello, John White. I'm sure that you'll have your usual giant audience. John White, of course, from News Channel 3. And by the way, happy birthday to John White. He just celebrated his birthday, and my friend Bob Ware is celebrating his birthday today. Happy birthday to both of you gentlemen. I look forward to celebrating with you both. And over the weekend, we'll social distance. The only thing I'm going to be really close to is my beer when I'm toasting John and Beware. And speaking of that, I can toast you guys right now. Happy birthday, gentlemen. Little gentleman Jack. All right, I've got all of our ingredients into this delicious bolognese. I'm going to drain off my pasta. We like the bucatini because it stays nice and al dente. There we go. Always run some cold water in your pasta pot when you're done. And often it's very nice to reserve a little bit of that pasta sauce because it's nice and starchy and it's going to help. Sometimes people take the pasta sauce and put a little right into the bolognese or whatever sauce they're making, because then it helps the noodles, the sauce adhere to the noodles. But I'm not going to do that tonight. All right, we got the pasta. That'll drain a little bit more. I've got the heat back up on our bolognese. Oh, I really do wish you guys could smell this, but you're going to make it at home. You're going to try this. You know, it's a long weekend. It is going to be really hot this weekend, but it's still going to be a fantastic dish to serve your family over the holiday weekend. So I've got my pasta just about ready to go. And again, this is going to cook down, and seriously, I'm going to cook this down for probably at least another hour, maybe 2. It's a long process, but you're going to end up with a really, really delicious finished product. Okay, I'm going to let you take a look at this. All right, remember now, this has got all of that great Parmesan cheese in it. It's got the cream or the milk, whatever you want to use, and our 3 kinds of meat in there, a little nutmeg, and of course the salt, the pepper, just a touch of oregano and basil, not a lot, and a little sage, just for good measure. So there is our bolognese. And again, this is a little a little soupy. It's going to cook down beautifully. If we came back in about half hour, 45 minutes, we would be much closer to our final consistency. Cannoli. Patty, it's funny you ask that. My friend Richard, who's watching, is dying for cannolis. He's always wanting for me to make cannolis. And we do have the cannoli, the shell, you need the steel tubes. One day we might do that. But I'm going to make the tubes in advance. But the stuffing is easy and it's fun to make, and you can do a lot of different things. There's a very traditional cannoli stuffing. It always starts with nice sweetened ricotta cheese. So it's ricotta cheese, and you put in the confection sugar, and you can add the chocolate chips, a little orange zest. I like to put in a little amaretto. So you can do a lot of different things. All right. As I like to do with most of my pastas, put it right in to the sauce, okay? So then you're gonna get it nice and coated, and it's gonna be beautiful. Don't worry, sweetheart, I know I'm making a mess, but I'll clean it up, I promise. All right, so I'm gonna take that out and get all my noodles, because I'm gonna still keep cooking my sauce. Whoops, lost a couple. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay, yeah, that smells delicious. And I know I got the right tool around here somewhere. There it is. All right. So here we go, pasta bolognese, and you're gonna love it. Beef, pork, veal. You never saw it? Yeah, you put it right in the sauce. That way all the noodles get all of that rich deliciousness on them. So dinner's ready, that looks pretty good. I'll set that over there. And again, I'm gonna let that continue to cook down. It's gonna be really, really prime in about an hour from now. Hey, thanks very much for joining me. Hello, Jen, my brother-in-law, Jonas. Skados, yes. So thank you guys for joining me, and we'll figure out something else to cook that's delicious next week, and I will post the recipe a little bit later on. This video will be available online as well. And again, let me remind you, tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock, News Channel 3 and CBS Local 2. A salute to the class of 2020. I want you to tune in for that. And Jimmy Fitz and Friends on Sunday evening, Fox 11, 9 o'clock. So come on and join us for all of those good things. Thank you guys. Have a very safe Memorial Day weekend. Stay safe. Practice your social distancing. Don't get sick. Be careful out there. And remember what Memorial Day is all about. Pausing to honor those who have given their lives in defense of our great country. Thank you very much. Enjoy the bolognese. I'm going to certainly enjoy it. You guys have a great weekend.